Hello Untombler's and welcome to the latest Monster Hunter game. Latest mainline Monster Hunter game. A game where you restore the natural order by plundering every single resource the land offers and exterminating all the local fauna to make fancy dresses. Cause remember, an ecosystem can't be unstable if there's no ecosystem. But before becoming a ruthless killer, you start as a nobody, part of an expedition to the new world to figure out something about old dragons. But since this is a ship at the start of a game, a giant monster attacks, kills hundreds, and ruins your snack. Unfortunately, your tiny weapons don't really seem to work all that great. So after the only time you are ever helped by someone who can't even beat low-level monsters apparently, you arrive at the hub, which is where you will spend all of your non-fighting time. And then you get to decide which weapon you want to use. Now, all the weapons are pretty cool, but some are cooler than others. Let's go through all of them. First we have the greatsword, which is perfect if you like big numbers and attacks so slow that the monster will have died from natural causes before it hits. Other than big attacks, you could, in theory, block. If you're a coward, real gamers spam attack and get hit 99% of the time to deal okay damage on that 1%. Next is, holy shit, the longsword. Because it wouldn't be a Japanese game without a katana, which means I gotta put this here to reach my joke quota. The katana is one of the more complex weapons because it has its own resource, being ki, which you build up by attacking and spend to do more powerful attacks, which seems complicated but nothing that bottom mashing can't fix. Now take the longsword, remove the long, and the cool attacks, and you get sword and shield, which is the baby beginner weapon. So it's really simple, quick attacks and blocking, and that's about it. Now, others may say it's versatile and very good, but I am extremely biased, so I won't. Next are the dual blades, which takes sword and shield, removes the part you don't need, and then gives you Adderall. The dual blades are the quickest weapon in the game, which sadly means no big numbers. Its mechanic is demon mode, which loses you stamina as long as it's on, but gives you even faster attacks that hit harder. However, if what you want is big number, big stick, big hit, the hammer is a thing for you. The hammer, which needs sharpening for some reason, lets you stun monsters by giving them severe concussions. It's also perfect for bonking. Now, if for some reason you had to go to band practice and slay some monsters on the way, the hunting horn saves you the trouble of carrying two things. The hunting horn is basically the hammer with a bunch of support spells which you can cast by hitting monsters to play a tune. Next up, are you a coward who says things like, blocking is actually really useful, or you can't dodge everything so it's nice to be able to tank, or this is just a straw man, shut up. If so, the lance is for you. It's one of the best defensive weapons, basically allowing you to block anything. However, its damage output is pretty bad, and since I literally never get hit, I don't need the defense. Now, take the lance and make it way cooler. You get the gun lance, which is, cooler and maybe worse? I have no idea how to use it, but if something has a subreddit on Hollow Knight levels of copium, things cannot be good. Next is the switchaxe, which is the Billy Mays weapon, because for the price of one, you get another weapon absolutely free. Other than switching back and forth, the sword version charges itself up with attacks and then explodes because of elements or something. Next is what Sword and Shield dreams it was instead of being boring and stinky. Charge Blade, which is half Sword and Shield and half giant axe. It also happens to have one of the more complex mechanics, which down is attack with Sword and Shield to charge, then use big axe. Now, if the dual blades weren't enough to satisfy your brain rot, we have the Insect Glaive, which is focused on buffing you based on where you hit a monster and on jumping a lot. Next we have the light bowgun, which sure sounds like a convoluted way of saying crossbow. Holy shit! Okay, bow gun it is. The light bowgun is a less bulky and lamer version of the heavy bowgun. The only difference is the ammo you can use, the special ability, and the mobility. And yes, you do have to farm for all your bullets manually. And finally, we have the bow, which compared to a machine gun seems a bit underwhelming. It does function very differently from the bow guns. For one, it doesn't require farming bullets, only coatings, which are used to give your arrows special attributes. And most important of all, it has a big big number attack. Now that you have picked your weapon, you can go on your first hunt. But before you do, you should probably stop by the canteen, because what could possibly go wrong with eating a family-sized meal before heavy exercise? Oh, that could go... Hunting a monster usually goes like this. Scramble around to find any tracks, looting all the natural life you come across, then following the tracks, getting stun-locked for like 40 years, then the monster flees like a coward and you chase it. Eventually, it decides that the best time for a nap is while being actively pursued, giving you the opportunity to be the world's most effective alarm. And then once it's dead, you get to skin it for parts. Now, what do you use those parts for? The forge, which is where you make new weapons and armor, mostly out of the scavenged body parts of your enemies. Which seems casual enough at first, until you are 6 hours deep in a grind to get that cool looking armor and keep getting screwed over by horrible RNG. At these times, you should probably look at the equipment for your cat companion, which helps you out if you are lonely and have no friends. Like me. But hey, look at how cool or cute this Kibbity is! Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting about something. Ah, right, the story. As you know, I always take care to read the dialogue, so I know exactly what's going on. So let me give you a brief summary of the plot just in case you mashed through the conversations. So Fat Boy wants to go into some specific cave or something to die of old age in, and at first you try to capture him with like spears and rope. That obviously doesn't work, so you have to stop him from reaching that cave, otherwise he really will become a fat boy. To stop him, you have to pop 3 pimples on his back and then blast him with multi-shot breech-loaded cannons. And I mean, I see nothing that could ever go wrong with this design. And stab him in the shin with a giant spear, I mean like really big, which takes like 10 minutes to reload for whatever reason. Eventually, after hitting it with all the gunpowder in the new world, it dies. Unfortunately, a bunch of weird things keep happening, which means you have to kill a dozen more rare species until you figure out it was actually a ghost and you have to kill it all alone. I told you these guys are useless. After being scared of falling to death, even though there's no fall damage, you decide to stay in the new world to avoid talking to your parents. And that's where the main game ends. There's also this big expansion, but I won't talk about it for good reasons like, spoilers. And not at all that I haven't finished it yet because I play really slow. There's also like a few things that I haven't mentioned just in case I ended up being a bit too informative. So that was the newest Monster Hunter game. What? The sequel is coming out in a month? Oh, for fuck! I ate it. No more sequel. However, the last mainline Monster Hunter game gets a solid cat dress up out of 10. Now subscribe, like, and fly a blimp with the channel's QR code over all major cities.